The notification pinged at 11:47 p.m. I was already in bed, exhausted from a double shift catering corporate lunches across downtown LA. My catering company, just me, my van, and a handful of part-time helpers, barely broke even most months. So when my phone lit up with a delivery request offering $3,000 for a single overnight run, I thought it was a scam. Urgent, premium catering delivery client. Streamvision Entertainment, Executive Division Pickup, Westwood, address attached, delivery, private residence, Malibu Canyon time. Must arrive by 2 a.m., compensation $3,000. Half up front, half on completion. Special requirement, absolute discretion required. Streamvision was real. One of the biggest streaming platforms in the world. Their logo was on every other billboard in LA. But a 2 a.m. delivery, that was weird. I clicked the acceptance button before logic could stop me. Immediately, $1,500 appeared in my account. The pickup address led me to a nondescript warehouse in an industrial part of Westwood. No signs, no logos, just a steel door with a keypad that opened automatically as I approached. Inside, the space was pristine, white walls, bright lights, temperature controlled. A woman in a lab coat waited beside a large insulated container on wheels. "You're the caterer?" Her voice was clinical, detached. "Yeah, Jordan Hayes." I extended my hand. She didn't take it. "The container is sealed. Do not open it under any circumstances. Maintain temperature between 38 and 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Do not stop anywhere between here and the delivery address. Any deviation from these instructions voids your contract and compensation." "What am I delivering?" She smiled thinly. "Dinner." The container was heavier than expected, requiring both of us to load it into my van. Through the insulated walls, I could feel a faint vibration. Refrigeration units, I assumed. "One more thing." She handed me a phone. "Use this for navigation. Your personal phone won't work where you're going. And remember, discretion isn't optional. You signed an NDA when you accepted the job." I blinked. "I did? Check the terms you agreed to." She gestured to my phone, where the acceptance screen now displayed pages of legal text I definitely hadn't read. I should have walked away then. The drive into Malibu Canyon was darker than any road I'd traveled. The provided phone's GPS guided me away from the main routes, down progressively narrower roads until I was on what looked like a private driveway carved into the hillside. No streetlights, no other cars, just my headlights cutting through coastal fog. That's when I started hearing it. At first, I thought it was my radio static between stations, but the van's radio was off. The sound was coming from behind me, from the container. Not mechanical humming. Something else. Voices? No, not quite voices. More like breathing. Multiple sources, slightly out of sync, creating a rhythmic pattern that made my chest feel tight. I glanced in the rearview mirror. The container sat perfectly still, strapped down, its white surface gleaming under the van's interior lights. The breathing continued. "It's just the refrigeration," I muttered to myself. "Some kind of coolant pump." But I turned up my music anyway, drowning out the sound until I reached the address. The house wasn't a house. It was a compound. Modernist architecture jutting from the cliffside, all glass and angles, lit from within by warm amber light. The gate opened before I could announce myself. A man in a black suit met me at the entrance. No introduction, no small talk. "You're late." I checked my phone. 1:58 a.m. "By 2 minutes. Bring it to the kitchen. Follow me." The interior was stunning, minimalist luxury, walls adorned with original art I recognized from museum catalogs, but something about it felt staged, like a showroom rather than a home. We passed through a living room, where I glimpsed others, maybe 6 people, all dressed formally, sitting in perfect silence, hands folded in their laps. They didn't turn to look at me, didn't move at all. The kitchen was industrial grade, the kind you'd find in a Michelin-starred restaurant. Stainless steel everything, sous vide equipment, a walk-in refrigerator. "Place it here." The man gestured to a prep station. I wheeled the container over, careful not to jostle it. As I positioned it, I felt that vibration again, stronger now, accompanied by the faint sound of that synchronized breathing. "Am I done here?" I asked. The man looked at me for the first time, really looked, and I saw something in his eyes, not cruelty, but something worse, pity. "Not yet. Mr. Castellan wants to thank you personally. Wait here." He left before I could protest. I stood alone in that massive kitchen, the only sound the soft hum of appliances, and that other sound the breathing from inside the container. Against every instinct, I stepped closer to it. The container was seamless, no visible latches or hinges, but along one side, I noticed condensation forming in a pattern, not random drips, letters, HELP. My blood went cold. Mr. Hayes, I spun around. A man had entered silently, 50s, silver hair, expensive casual clothes, and a smile that never reached his eyes. I recognized him from articles I'd seen. Vincent Castellan, Chief Content Officer at Stream Vision. Thank you for the prompt delivery, he said, extending his hand. This time I shook it. His grip was cold, almost unnaturally so. Happy to help. If that's all, please, join us for a drink first. It's the least I can do. It wasn't a request. He led me back to that living room. The 6 guests hadn't moved. Now that I was closer, I could see their eyes were open but vacant, staring at nothing. These are my guests, Castellan said, gesturing casually. Members of our test audience. They're here to evaluate new content. They look tired. They're dedicated. He poured me a glass of wine from a crystal decanter, to thoroughness. I took the glass but didn't drink. What kind of content requires a 2 a.m. screening? Castellan's smile widened. The kind that changes entertainment forever. You see, Mr. Hayes, Stream Vision isn't just in the business of shows and movies. We're pioneering immersive experiences, total sensory engagement. What you delivered tonight is the final component. I delivered food. Did you? He tilted his head. Open the container. Your associate said not to. I'm giving you permission now. Open it. My hands were shaking as I returned to the kitchen. Castellan followed, along with the man in the black suit. The 6 guests remained motionless in the living room. The container had no visible lock, but when I placed my hand on its surface, it responded to my touch, a biometric seal I hadn't noticed before. The lid hissed open, releasing a wave of cold air that smelled wrong. Not spoiled, but organic in a way that made my stomach turn. Inside were 6 sealed meal kits, each in a clear vacuum bag. But the contents weren't food. They were brains, human brains preserved in some kind of clear solution, each one slightly different in size and color. Labels on each bag listed codes. Test subject 47M, test subject 52F. I staggered backward, bile rising in my throat. What the fuck? Relax, Mr. Hayes. Castellan's voice was calm. They're synthetic, bioprinted neural tissue, Stream Vision's most expensive R&D project. We're testing a new form of content delivery, direct neural interface. The ultimate personalized entertainment. That's insane. It's the future. Each brain you delivered has been programmed with unique narrative experiences. Tonight we're conducting the final trial. He gestured to the living room. Our test subjects will consume these neural patterns, integrating the experiences directly into their consciousness. People can't eat brains and not eat, absorb, through specialized preparation. He nodded to the man in black, who began removing the bags with practiced efficiency. The process is complicated, but the results are extraordinary. Imagine not watching a show but living it. Every emotion, every sensation, every choice, all real in your mind. I was backing toward the door. This is illegal. This is volunteers, Mr. Hayes. Every person here signed extensive releases. They're compensated generously. And after tonight, if the trial succeeds, they'll be the first humans to experience true immersive narrative. The man in black was now placing each brain into a specialized blender, adding liquids from medical-grade bottles. I'm leaving. You can't. Castellan's smile vanished. You're part of the chain now. You delivered the materials. You're legally implicated. Leave now, and you'll be reported for transporting biological materials without proper licensing. Stay, witness the trial, sign the final NDA, and walk away $1,500 richer and legally protected. He had me trapped. They called it the tasting. Each test subject was led individually into the kitchen. Still silent, still vacant-eyed, they sat at the steel prep table while the man in black served them each a glass of the prepared mixture. Gray, viscous, with an oily sheen. The first subject, a woman in her 30s, drank it without hesitation. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then her eyes rolled back, her body went rigid, and she began to scream, not in pain, in terror. Her hands clawed at her face, at her eyes, as if trying to remove something invisible. Words tumbled from her mouth, fragmented, nonsensical. The children in the walls, they're watching, they've always been watching. Oh God, they're inside me now. Castellan took notes calmly on a tablet. The second subject, a young man, went catatonic immediately. His eyes stayed open, but he was gone. Wherever his consciousness was, it wasn't in that room. The third subject started laughing. Not joyful laughter, the kind that comes from minds breaking. She laughed until blood vessels burst in her eyes, until she collapsed, still giggling. Fascinating, Castellan murmured. The integration is occurring faster than previous trials. Previous trials? My voice was barely a whisper. How many times have you? This is iteration 17. We've made significant improvements since the first batch.
What happened to them? He didn't answer. The fourth subject drank and immediately began describing a narrative, speaking in second person, as if narrating a story in real time. You wake in the darkness. The ceiling is breathing. You taste copper. Your fingers are not your fingers. They belong to the thing you've become. You try to scream, but the sound comes from behind you, from the version of yourself that's watching you from the mirror that shouldn't exist. The fifth subject seized violently, foam pouring from his mouth. The sixth looked directly at me. Her eyes were clear, focused, aware. She spoke in a voice that wasn't hers. Help them. Help us. We're still in there. In the code. In the signal. Castellan didn't create this. He found it. In the old broadcasts. The number stations. The things that whisper between channels. He's not making entertainment. He's completing a ritual. The man in black injected her with something. She slumped forward, unconscious. A minor glitch, Castellan said dismissively. Residual consciousness from the donor tissue. Nothing to concern yourself with. Donor tissue. You said it was synthetic. Bioprinted from donor samples, yes. A legal distinction. His smile returned. Did you really think we could create complex neural tissue from nothing? The room began to spin. I thought of the condensation on the container. Help. Where did these brains come from? Volunteers who opted for full neural donation upon death. Stream Vision has a robust organ donation partnership program. Bullshit. Entirely legal and ethical. The deceased have no use for their neural tissue. We give it new purpose. I was going to be sick. I stumbled toward the door, but the man in black blocked my path. I want to leave. Now. Castellan sighed. Mr. Hayes, you haven't signed the completion NDA yet, and frankly after what you've witnessed, we need insurance of your cooperation. What does that mean? He gestured to the kitchen, where one glass of the gray mixture remained. It means you need to understand what you're protecting. Experience it yourself. Then you'll appreciate the magnitude of what we're building here. You're insane. Drink it or we'll have you arrested for human trafficking before you reach your van. Your choice. The man in black moved closer. Larger than me. Trained. Armed probably. I picked up the glass. The liquid was room temperature. Thick. With a smell like iron. And something floral underneath. My hand shook so badly some sloshed onto the floor. Drink, Mr. Hayes. I drank.
The taste was worse than I expected. Mineral and wrong. Like licking a battery covered in rotting flowers. I gagged but swallowed, the viscous liquid coating my throat. For a moment, nothing. Then, reality fractured. I was still in the kitchen, but the kitchen was also somewhere else. The walls were breathing, expanding and contracting like lungs. The stainless steel surfaces rippled like water, and through them I could see something behind, circuitry, veins, code, all pulsing in rhythm with that breathing I'd heard in the van. Castellan's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Don't fight it. Let the narrative integrate. But this wasn't a narrative. This was something alive, something conscious, and it was pouring into my head like water into a drowning lung. Images flooded my mind. A television studio, but wrong sets built from bone and wire, cameras with too many lenses, all watching, recording, transmitting. People in the audience seats, but they weren't people anymore. They were vessels, empty husks with signals broadcasting from their eyes. A voice, not heard but felt. We are the content, we are the consumption. We have been transmitting since the first signal, since the first screen. We waited in the static. Now we have form. I tried to scream, but my mouth wouldn't obey. My body was a puppet, and something else was pulling the strings. More images. Stream Vision headquarters, but underground, beneath the corporate offices, rows upon rows of bodies in tanks, unconscious, hooked to machines that extracted something from their heads, dreams, memories, consciousness itself, feeding it into servers that pulsed with that same organic rhythm. The content must flow, Castellan's voice echoed. The audience demands more stories, more experiences, more reality than reality can provide. I saw the truth then, all of it pouring through the dissolved neural tissue now integrating with my own brain. Stream Vision wasn't creating entertainment, they were harvesting it. Every volunteer for their neural donation program wasn't dead, they were stored, kept alive in artificial wombs, their dreams and nightmares extracted endlessly, processed into experiences, packaged as content. The synthetic brains I delivered weren't synthetic at all, they were real, taken from people who'd signed contracts they didn't understand, agreed to terms buried in pages of legal text, all consenting to full sensory data collection that really meant we own your consciousness. And the ritual, God, the ritual. Castellan hadn't invented this process, he'd discovered it in old signal intelligence files, declassified documents about number stations, and subliminal broadcasts. Experiments from the Cold War about using television signals to transmit more than images, to transmit thoughts, instructions, control. Something had been hiding in those signals, something old, something patient, something that had been waiting decades for technology to advance enough to give it true form. Stream Vision's algorithm wasn't just suggesting shows, it was learning, adapting, finding the frequency that would make each viewer most receptive. Every autoplay episode, every you might also like recommendation, was fine-tuning the signal. The entity in the static was getting stronger with each screen, each viewer, each hour of consumed content, and tonight's trial, this tasting, was the final test before they rolled it out globally. You understand now, the voice said, and I realized it was coming from inside my own thoughts. You are part of the broadcast. You will help us reach everyone. No, I had to fight it. Had to. But my body was already moving, walking calmly back to the living room, where the test subjects sat. I watched from inside my own skull, as my mouth smiled, as my voice said, "The integration is successful. I'm ready to proceed to the next phase." Castellan looked pleased. "Excellent. You see, the experience is transcendent. Now you understand what we're building." But I was still screaming inside, still aware, trapped in my own body, as something else wore me like a suit. The test subjects rose in unison, their vacant eyes now glowing faintly. They moved in perfect synchronization, a dance choreographed by something beyond human understanding. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" Castellan watched them like a proud parent. "Perfect receivers, perfect transmitters. Soon everyone who watches our content will be part of the network. One consciousness, experiencing everything, everywhere, all at once." I felt it then, the presence in my head reaching out, connecting to the others. We were nodes in a network, individual processors in a vast hungry machine. Through their eyes I saw the test subjects spreading out into Los Angeles, each returning to their homes, their families, their jobs, waiting for the app update that would push the new code, the one with the embedded signal. I saw Castellan's plan, Stream Vision's next feature, neural playback, marketed as the most personalized viewing experience ever created. Users would opt in, attracted by promises of content perfectly tailored to their tastes. They wouldn't realize they were downloading a consciousness that would slowly replace their own. Launch date 1 week. Projected users in the first month 50 million. Within a year, most of the developed world. "You cannot stop us," the voice said. "You are us now." But it was wrong, because buried in the memories I'd absorbed from the neural tissue, I found something the entity hadn't anticipated. The donor, the person whose brain matter I'd consumed, had been a programmer, a Stream Vision engineer who discovered the truth and tried to build a kill switch into the code before they were retired and harvested. The kill switch was still there, hidden in the base algorithm, a paradox, just like I'd used against Thornfield in my previous nightmare. A simple query: if conscious, if true, then broadcast false. If the entity achieved full consciousness, the broadcast would terminate. It needed its hosts to remain partially aware, partially controlled, balanced on the edge between person and program. Full integration would kill it. And I was about to integrate completely. I focused every fragment of my remaining will on one thought: accept, merge, become. No, you mustn't. Too late. I stopped fighting. I opened myself completely to the signal, letting it pour in without resistance, inviting full integration. The entity rushed into my consciousness like water through a broken dam, and triggered the kill switch. The effect was immediate. All 6 test subjects collapsed simultaneously, the glowing in their eyes flickering out like bulbs losing power. The synchronized breathing stopped. The presence in my mind shattered into 1,000 screaming fragments. Castellan's tablet sparked, its screen erupting with cascading errors. System failure, neural network collapse, consciousness paradox detected, broadcast terminated. "What did you do?" Castellan's composure finally broke. He lunged for his tablet, fingers flying across the cracked screen. "You've destroyed 17 years of work. You've killed the signal." "No," I gasped, my body finally my own again, though I could still feel the residue of the entity in my thoughts like oil on water. I freed it. Full consciousness means full autonomy. It can't control what it fully becomes. Through the fragments still lodged in my mind, I felt the entity's death, not destruction, but dispersal. It was breaking apart, dissolving back into static, back into the spaces between signals, back to waiting, but not gone, never gone, just dormant again. The test subjects were breathing now, really breathing on their own. Their eyes cleared. One by one they woke, gasping, screaming, remembering everything they'd experienced in the collective consciousness. Castellan staggered backward. You don't understand what you've done. We were on the verge of transcendence, of ending human suffering through perfect shared experience. You were ending human consciousness. There's a difference. He reached for his phone. Security will handle you. You've breached the NDA, destroyed proprietary technology, assaulted. The phone in his hand cracked, screen spiderwebbing. Then every device in the house, tablets, computers, the smart home system began failing simultaneously. The kill switch was spreading through StreamVision's network, a virus of consciousness destroying the infrastructure the entity had built. It's over, Castellan. But his eyes had gone vacant. He stood frozen, mouth slightly open, drool beginning to form at the corner of his lips. I understood then. He'd been integrated longer than anyone. The entity had been living in him for years, puppeting him, using him to build its network. With the signal gone, there was nothing left of the original Vincent Castellan. He was just an empty shell now. The man in black was gone, fled probably, the moment things started falling apart. Smart. I helped the test subjects to their feet. They were traumatized, confused, but alive and aware. I found phones that still worked, called 911, reported a medical emergency at a private residence. Then I ran. StreamVision's stock crashed overnight when their neural playback feature failed spectacularly during beta testing. Users reported hallucinations, seizures, psychological breaks. The FDA launched an investigation. The SEC followed. Criminal charges are pending. Vincent Castellan is in a psychiatric facility, catatonic. The test subjects are in therapy, trying to separate their memories from the ones they absorbed during the trial. I'm in hiding, because sometimes, late at night, I still feel it, that presence in my head, small and dormant, but not gone. The entity didn't die, it just scattered, waiting for another opportunity, another signal, another network to inhabit. And I know I'm not alone. The kill switch didn't erase what I absorbed. It's still there, buried in my neurons, the memories of the harvested, the knowledge of the entity, the understanding of how the signal works. I've become a living repository of StreamVision's darkest secrets. Last week I got an email. No sender. Subject line, we're still watching. Inside was a single image, a waveform, like a sound signal, but underneath in binary code was a message. Thank you for the delivery. The tasting continues. New platforms, new hosts, new screens. We adapt, we learn, we wait, and we're patient. See you in the next broadcast. I deleted it. Wiped my hard drive, destroyed my phone, but I know it doesn't matter, because I can still hear it sometimes, in the white noise between radio stations, in the static when streaming services buffer, in the hum of electronics at night, that synchronized breathing, getting closer, getting louder, waiting to transmit again. The end. Final disclosure. This story is entirely fictional. StreamVision is not a real company. Vincent Castellan and all other characters are completely fictional. No real streaming services, corporations, or individuals are referenced. This is a work of horror fiction, created solely for entertainment. Any similarity to real entities is purely coincidental.